It was exactly 2:13 a.m. The entire city was asleep. Outside, the cold wind whistled through the empty streets, making the trees sway slowly in the darkness. Umar was lying in his room, scrolling through his phone. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a door slamming somewhere downstairs. Thud! Umar immediately sat up. He was completely alone in the house. His parents had gone out of town for 2 days. He tried to calm himself. Maybe the wind closed the door. But then he heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Someone was slowly knocking on the main door. Umar's heart began to race. He slowly walked down the stairs. The entire house was dark and silent. When he reached the door, the knocking suddenly stopped. He gathered the courage and opened it. No one was there. Only the empty street. And the cold wind blowing. Umar closed the door and turned back. Suddenly, he felt like someone was standing right behind him. He turned quickly. But there was nothing there. Feeling uneasy, he rushed back upstairs to his room. As soon as he sat on his bed, he heard footsteps on the stairs. Step, step, step. Someone was slowly climbing the stairs. Umar's throat went dry. He walked to his bedroom door and pressed his ear against it. The footsteps stopped right outside his room. For a few seconds, there was complete silence. Then a whisper came from the other side of the door. Umar, open the door. Umar's body started trembling. That voice. It was his best friend Hamza's voice. But Hamza had died in a car accident 3 days ago. Umar whispered in fear, Who is there? A soft, terrifying laughter came from outside. Then the voice spoke again. I came back. Umar slowly stepped back. Suddenly the door began to creak open by itself. Creak. The hallway outside was completely dark. Then, from the darkness, 2 glowing red eyes appeared. And the same voice whispered again. That night, you left me alone and ran away. Now, you will come with me. Suddenly the lights in the room went out. And Umar's terrifying scream echoed throughout the house. The next morning, the neighbors noticed the front door of the house was open. When the police entered the house, it was completely empty. Umar was gone, but on the wall of his room, written in blood, were the words, In the dead of night. No one is ever truly alone.
It was 2:17 a.m. The rain had just stopped. Outside, the wet street reflected the dim yellow glow of the streetlights, making the night look strangely distorted. Sarah was alone in her apartment. She had just closed her laptop and was about to go to sleep when she suddenly heard a soft, dripping sound coming from the bathroom. Drip, drip, drip. Sarah frowned. I'm sure I turned the faucet off. Slowly, she walked toward the bathroom. The bathroom door was slightly open, and the light inside was on. When she stepped inside, she saw the faucet slightly open, water slowly dripping into the sink. She reached forward and turned it off. Then she lifted her head and looked at the mirror. Everything looked normal, but something felt wrong. In the mirror, the bathroom door behind her looked closed. In reality, the door was still open. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She quickly turned around. The door was still open. She looked back at the mirror again. Now the door in the mirror was open too. Sarah took a deep breath. Maybe I imagined it. She walked back to her bedroom and lay down on the bed. But a few seconds later, she heard something again. Soft footsteps inside the bathroom. Step, step, step. A cold wave ran through her body. Sarah slowly got up and walked back to the bathroom. The door was open. Inside, there was no one. But something new appeared. On the foggy mirror, someone had written words with a finger. I'm watching you. Sarah's heart began pounding violently. Who wrote that? Suddenly, the bathroom light began to flicker. Flick, flick, flick. Sarah slowly looked back at the mirror, and her blood turned cold. In the mirror, a tall, dark woman was standing behind her. Her eyes were completely black. Her face was half hidden in shadow. Sarah spun around instantly, but there was no one there. Her hands were shaking as she looked back at the mirror. Now the woman in the reflection was standing much closer, and she was smiling, slowly and naturally. Suddenly, no words appeared on the mirror, written in blood. "Now you can see me too." The bathroom light suddenly went out. The entire apartment fell into darkness. Moments later, the neighbors heard a terrifying scream coming from Sarah's apartment. The next morning, the police arrived. The door was locked from the inside. The apartment was completely empty. Sarah had vanished. But on the bathroom mirror, written in blood, were the words, "In the dead of night, mirrors don't only show reflections, they are doors." And in the mirror, behind the police officers, another shadow was standing.
It was 2:03 a.m. The city subway station was almost completely empty. Cold air moved through the underground tunnels, making a hollow whistling sound. The dim fluorescent lights flickered above the long silent platform. A man stood alone, waiting for the last train home. He had missed the earlier train after working late at the office. According to the schedule board, the last train would arrive in 2 minutes. But something felt strange. The station was too quiet. No footsteps. No voices. Not even the sound of distant trains. Only the faint hum of the lights above him. Then, suddenly, the arrival board flickered. The text changed. Instead of showing the usual train line, it now displayed something strange. Last train, 2:05 a.m. A man frowned. That wasn't the name of any subway line. He looked around the empty station. "Maybe the board is broken," he whispered. Then he heard something from the tunnel. A distant metallic screech. The sound of a train slowly approaching. The tunnel ahead was completely dark. But then 2 faint lights appeared in the distance. The train arrived slowly at the platform. But something about it felt wrong. The train looked old, very old. Its metal body was scratched and rusted. The windows were dark, too dark. And inside, there were no passengers. The doors slid open with a long mechanical hiss. No one came out. A man hesitated, but it was the only train. He stepped inside. The doors closed behind him. Inside the train, the lights were dim and flickering. Every seat was empty. The entire carriage felt cold, unnaturally cold. The train started moving, slowly at first, then faster. A man sat down and checked his phone. There was no signal. Then he noticed something strange. The subway map above the door. All the station names were gone. Only one stop remained, written in faded letters. End of line. A chill ran down his spine. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound from the other end of the train. Tap, tap, tap. Footsteps. Someone was walking slowly toward him. But he had seen the train. It was empty. The footsteps got closer. Tap, tap, tap. A man slowly looked toward the dark end of the carriage. A shadow moved between the seats. Then another. And another. Figures began appearing in the darkness. Pale faces. Empty eyes. Dozens of silent passengers slowly sitting in the seats. All staring at him. None of them had been there before. A man's breathing became fast. One of them slowly stood up. Its head tilted unnaturally. And it spoke in a dry whisper. "You weren't supposed to board this train." The lights flickered violently. Outside the windows, there was no tunnel anymore. Only endless darkness. Then the train suddenly stopped. The doors opened. But outside, there was no station. Only a black void. Behind a man, the passengers began standing up. One by one. Their voices whispering together. End of the line.